Two humorous nurses would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we record the podcast, the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are listening today. Always was, always will be.
This episode is brought to you by Nursely, comfy AF compression socks. Take the time to take care of yourself and your patients one pair of socks at a time. Head to www.nursleystore.com to check out the fun range. Two humorous nurses with Kelly and Alisha.
The podcast that loves the drama.
Welcome to Two Humorous Nurses, where we plan to bring you funny, informal, conversational chat about all things nursing.
And we are back with some murderous nurseresses. Should we jump right in?
Nurseresses.
I was trying to make it rhyme. Mine is huge. Like, I just, it took so long and I was right in there. Like, it's crazy. What have you got?
I've got a Scottish weirdo. No. So I've got Colin Norris, born 12th of February 1976, to his namesake father, who was a painter decorator, and his mother, June, who worked as a typist. He was an only child, and his parents divorced when he was 9 years old.
Oh, there's the trauma.
Oh, boom, straight on. He saw very little of his father after the divorce, and his mother remarried 4 years later. He was very close to his grandmother, who still to this day refuses to believe that he could have committed the murders of 4 elderly women.
Well, look, Ted Bundy's mum still loves him.
I mean, someone's
Actually,
got
she's
to.
probably dead. Yeah.
Norris served as a Boy Scout, and these aren't my words, this is what was written in the newspaper article, but helped to look after mentally handicapped people while also becoming involved in amateur dramatics.
Oh, he's one of my folk.
Oh, yeah. Secondary school, he passed his Scottish equivalent of the GCS or whatever we do here.
BCE,
before... Yeah, TEE was when I was
GCS? GCS.
I don't know. It was a long time since I was at school. Shit. Anyway, he passed everything. And then he went to college to study travel. He left the course after a year to work in a travel agency and then decided at 22 he was going to be a nurse.
Oh, my gosh.
He made the career switch because you get to deal with people and you get to make a difference in their lives.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's great.
Of course you did.
Well, he's not wrong. He wasn't wrong.
No. I mean, you can do that as a travel agent too. Just, he should have
deal
stuck with
people. Put them on the flights that you know are going to crash. Is that
yeah.
and make a difference to their lives.
His nursing college record was very average. It was noted that he was quick to anger and often had aggressive confrontations with tutors and later his employers. His behaviour at the University of Dundee was described as unacceptable, but despite all of that, he qualified in June of 2001 and began to work as a nurse in Leeds.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was quick to cause trouble and fall out with authority figures and senior staff, and he refused to work with the elderly, saying that he didn't want to work with that type of person and he preferred the trauma work. He later admitted to police that he found elderly patients challenging and struggled to bathe elderly female patients because he couldn't get used to the smells.
Who gets used to the smells? They still stink sometimes.
And I mean, there are worse smells.
There are way worse smells.
And you can wash it away.
He's like, you stink, dead.
Yeah. He was
funny, but not funny.
No, yeah, funny, not funny.
Funny, not funny.
He was quick to anger by the smallest action made by elderly patients. And during his training, he actually refused to attend placements in nursing homes and often called in sick. And yes, he's still qualified.
Fucking hell.
Fucking arsehole.
Do you know,
after he-
just a side note, I remember
Yeah.
one of my lecturers like telling us, "We will drag you across the line." I literally remember that quote.
Yeah.
Like, not, she didn't tell me that, but like
feel like-
collectively the group.
I feel like back in 2001 as well was like when there was a big staffing crisis.
Globally.
But yeah, back then, like really bad. And the global financial, like there was just lots of shit happening
GFC.
back.
Yeah.
No, that was later.
No, that was,
actually,
yeah.
that was 2010. But yeah, I do remember that there was like a big push in nursing back then. So maybe they were just like, whatever, you know,
Yeah.
he'll be all right.
Yeah.
So he graduated in 2001 and got a job as a staff nurse at Leeds General Infirmary.
Mm-hmm.
Infirmary? It's such
That's
a weird name for a hospital.
Is that a massive hospital?
I think so.
Yeah.
Leeds is a pretty big town, isn't it?
I don't know, I've never been
Don't
there.
know. He was so in October 2001, and then began his like 6-month killing spree. Well, actually, it was close to a year.
Wow.
Just a little backstory. He was openly gay and had a thick Scottish accent. He wore black brimmed glasses and was known to duck out via the fire escape for a cigarette on night shift. So maybe he was having a post-kill ciggy instead of a resus ciggy. He also had some petty theft charges and had assisted a colleague to steal drugs from the hospital, but was caught. Of course, he didn't lose his job. So, like, he had issues from the get-go.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I feel like these ones, they always have, like, there are other little crimes that kind of are under their belt already before they start killing people.
Yeah.
But it's not like they've been charged with armed robbery. Like, it's not like they step up. It's not like they slowly step up. It's like petty theft, kill.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Few Panadol, boom, gone.
Right.
Anyway, let's get to the good stuff.
Let's do it.
Bad stuff.
The bad stuff.
So, May 2nd, 2002, Vera Wilby, 90-year-old, was admitted for a broken hip post-fall at home, and she deteriorates post-surgical repair. On May 17, so like 2 weeks later, Norris administers a large dose of morphine to Mrs. Wilby, which makes her drowsy, and then he gives her a high dose of insulin. 90 minutes after his shift is over, she's found semi-conscious with a hypoglycemic attack. She survives, and they suggest that was because she had abnormally high BSL. Anyway.
Okay.
So she actually was transferred to a nursing home a couple of months later and then died a year after that. Not related to this.
Sure.
But she's part of I included her because she's actually part of what they charged him with.
Sure.
Then in June 2002, 2 elderly ladies are admitted, both with fractured hips, for repair. Mrs. Ludlam is 80 and is given by Norris an unnecessary dose of morphine and then a high dose of insulin just prior to him leaving his shift. Of course, he works night shift, naturally.
Right, yeah.
She's found 40 minutes after in an altered coma state and passes away.
God.
Mrs. Burke, 88, also sustained a bleed in her brain post her fall with a fractured hip, but had got through the surgery fine and was doing quite well. Was found by Norris, as he claims, slumped in her bed. She was deeply unconscious, and doctors found that this was due to a hypoglycemia, not a stroke, despite Mrs. Burke not being diabetic. She does recover. She never recovers from this and dies 24 hours later. However, her death certificate states stroke as the cause.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Maybe he took some leave, but anyway, we head to October in 2002.
So what's that? So that's May, then 2 in June, and then he has a bit of a rest.
Little break.
Right.
Yeah. Irene Crooks. Oh, actually, there are many deaths that were investigated as part of his investigation of deaths in this hospital, like over 80, but they could only really attribute these particular ones to him. So maybe he did others, but we just don't know about them.
Sure, yeah.
Irene Crooks, 79, fractured hip. I guess he's on an orthopedic ward for repair. Norris cares for her over several shifts, states in his documentation that she's improving. However, she remains unwell on oxygen and is short of breath throughout the whole time. A week later, Norris finds her totally unresponsive. Again, you guessed it, hypoglycemic, not diabetic. And she dies a day later.
I don't understand. So, hang on. The first few, he's nursed them all night and then chooses to kill them as he's leaving.
Yeah.
Right? Or try to kill them as he's leaving.
Yep.
It just seems like
Yep.
redundant or something. Like, and then this one, he's trying to kill on his shift and creating all this extra work for himself.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. In the next month, so November 2002, we've got Ethel Hall, 86, admitted for a fractured hip and surgical repair, which goes well, and she's recovering well, walking with assistance. Mrs. Hall has an unexpected fainting spell, and a day later she takes a turn for the worse in the early hours of the morning, and staff find her choking. She's found to have a very, very low blood sugar, and blood tests show an abnormally high level of insulin. Earlier in the evening, Norris had predicted a change in her medical condition, telling the other staff, "Whenever I do night shift, someone always dies. It's always in the early morning that things go wrong."
Oh. Okay.
Just couldn't keep his mouth shut.
The other thing is, like, with the other lady, he's saying, "Oh, she's getting better" in his notes, but then dies. Like, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So in December 6th, the police have been asked to investigate these deaths. At December 11, Mrs. Hall dies. So that's like a week or so after, of irreversible brain damage after never regaining consciousness.
God.
So during the police investigation, Norris tells police that he seems to have been very unlucky over the last 12 months, but denies murdering anybody. He was arrested on December 11th, 2002, when, so he was bailed and then he moved back to Glasgow. He worked for an events company and travelled abroad 8 times while under investigation.
What?
I just blows my mind what they get away with, hey. He was suspended by the Royal College of Nursing the day after he was arrested, so they took away his licence, thankfully.
Doesn't mean he can't, like, still kill people.
I know. The detective chief superintendent, Chris Gregg, said that his arrogance was astonishing. He thought he could get away with murder. Each time we asked him a question, he just simply evaded it. And it was as if he was saying, "You can't prove a thing."
Oh, my God.
I know.
I don't understand. Like, how much hate can you have, like, in your heart?
Old people.
Like, but
and the closest person he was to was his grandmother. Could you imagine, like...
I've met people way more annoying than my patients.
Like, you smell. I don't want to do this. Soz.
But I've done it all night, so I'll kill you on my way home. Like, that's so strange because a lot of them, like,
want to hang around.
A lot of them kill to get the glory or to watch them die. Or but he's literally like,
no,
I won't even stay to see the fallout. I'll just inject this. And that is mental.
In the investigation, they did exhume one of the bodies. I can't remember which one. And she also had high levels of insulin in her blood system too. In October 2005, so 3 years after he was arrested, after he was arrested, Norris was charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. In March 2008, he was found guilty on all charges and he was jailed for life with a minimum term of 30 years.
That's not enough.
No. He's currently serving this sentence in a high security prison.
How is that enough? 30 years. That's not even 10 years for every person he killed.
I know. Get this.
That's disgusting.
there is a free Colin Norris campaign which believes that he never committed the crimes. They are basically saying that all the women may have died from natural causes, and they are challenging the prosecution's case with some claims, right? So they're claiming that an unrealistic amount of insulin would needed to have been injected to produce the results seen in Mrs. Hall's blood. They're suggesting maybe around a litre of insulin in order to get it.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
You could literally
Also,
inject anyone with like 20 units of Novorapid and put them into hypo. Like,
yeah, and he was injecting large amounts apparently. Like, he was sedating them with the morphine and then giving them. Anyway, they're also suggesting that maybe there was a rare autoimmune syndrome that could explain the blood test rather than foul play.
With a litre of insulin.
Yeah, but like a rare autoimmune syndrome in all these people in one hospital on one ward. And also that hypoglycemia naturally occurs in 10% of sick elderly people. So a cluster of cases will not necessarily suggest murder, as prosecution had claimed. Okay.
I'd like to see some research on that one.
Yeah. So they put this case to the Criminal Cases Review Commission, or the CCRC, for review in 2011 in the hopes that his conviction might be overturned. So they actively reviewed the case and concluded, this is what they said. As a result of new expert evidence, the CCRC has concluded that there is a real possibility that the Court of Appeal will decide that Mr. Norris's conviction for the attempted murder of one or more of the 4 patients is unsafe. As regards the murder of Mrs. Hall, the CCRC considers that this conviction depends upon support the other 4 cases and the prosecution ascertain that no one other than Mr. Norris could have been responsible. In light of new expert evidence, the CCRC is satisfied that the assertion is now less secure and that as a result there is a real possibility that the Court of Appeal will quash this conviction too.
What?
So it's been referred to the Court of Appeal in October 2021.
Oh.
So I can't find any updates after that.
No,
but
there might not be any.
There's like risk that this new evidence of these naturally occurring hypoglycemics or the amount of insulin or rare autoimmunes could actually be, it could make his guilty plea seem unsafe and therefore it may be overturned.
But the fact that they were all his patients, I'd love to know how many of his colleagues' patients suffered from random hypoglycemic attacks. He clearly wasn't going, if he did do it, which, I mean, from what you've told me, I think that he did. But if he did do it, he wasn't going to his colleagues' patients and injecting them. He was injecting his own patients that he had access to. No one's going to ask questions. And if he's giving them morphine, there's a good chance they're not going to know what the hell's going on after that, whether he's injected them with something else.
Exactly.
And I wonder whether it was subcut, what sort of method of injection was he using? Yeah, I'm curious about that. But
interesting. But yeah,
what do you think's going to happen? Surely
I don't know.
There's no way that they're going to be able to
I should put a Google alert on him just to see if something comes up.
Well, and then it's got to be if it goes to, isn't it if it goes to a certain court, if it goes to a jury, it's got to be beyond reasonable doubt. And if there's reasonable doubt, then he'll get let off.
Yeah, which is why it's gone to the Court of Appeals. Wow. So he's got a Facebook page and a Twitter page
to free him.
Free Colin Norris. And I was like, do I really want to go down this path? And then I was like, maybe I should.
Yes, follow it. We should actually do a follow-up because, I was going to do somebody else today, but her thing, they're going through so many appeals. And so then I'm like, oh, well, it won't be a good one for me to do. And it's in Italy and I had to find English versions of all the stories. It was too much work. So, but it'd be cool to find out, even if we touch base in a debrief one day about what's happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. See what happens
so
to him.
Interesting. But now I'm like, no, what if he's not a killer and we've wasted an episode?
I mean, either way, I feel like he's probably still a killer.
Yeah,
regardless.
I think so too. But it's whether
He's
a jury
dodgy
can
as
be
shit.
convinced of that. How's like telling people, oh, every time I work night shift, someone dies.
I know. People
What
need
an
to
idiot.
shut their traps.
If you're going to kill people, don't
Yeah.
tell anyone about it.
Be like, oh, yeah, she looks like she's going to get sick about 5 o'clock this morning. Boom, sick, choking. Oh, righto.
How funny. It's like I watch a lot of serial killer documentaries, and the cops are often like, we just have to wait for him to slip up, like the killer. Like, because often they do themselves in anyway, and they make it easy to be found.
And now, a bit more about Nursely. Nursely is a nurse-owned company on a mission to inspire nurses to prioritise self-care and ultimately shift the mindset of nurses to put themselves first. Nursely is the first of its kind in Australia, a chic brand solely dedicated to providing self-care products for nurses.
Their compression socks are a simple product that not only allows nurses to express themselves under a strict uniform code, but also provides a functional way for them to take care of themselves whilst they take care of their patients.
And some of the benefits include improving circulation, aiding in preventing varicose veins, reducing leg fatigue and swelling after being on your feet for 8+ hours.
There's heaps of fun designs such as unicorns, cactus, pineapples, rainbow hearts.
And Nursely has given our listeners $10 off any of their pre-made bundle packs with the code HUMOROUS10.
Head to www.nursleystore.com. That's NURSELY store.com. What about your lovely killer?
I'm glad yours was relatively short because mine is like, it is a shitstorm of crazy. Like I can't even explain to you. Like when I found this woman, I was like, you're my girl.
Oh no.
So this is the story of Kristen Heather Strickland, which then she got married and she was Kristen Gilbert. So she was born on the 13th of November 1967 to parents Richard and Claudia. She was the oldest of the couple's 2 daughters in what appeared to be a well-adjusted home. So apparently totally normal family, like no traumas that could be attributing factors to why she ended up being a killer.
Yep.
So throughout school and high school, like super smart. She finished high school a year and a half early. She was an attractive girl, like a relatively normal, good life, right? Except people found that she was a pathological liar. And she told her friends, so this was in one of the stories, she told her friends that she was a distant relative to Lizzie Borden. And I was like, oh, some American celebrity. I Googled her. She's an axe murderer. She's an American woman who was tried and acquitted of the August 4, 1892 axe murders of her father and stepmother.
Right. Yeah, it was she. I've listened to podcasts on her. Like it's hardcore. Yeah.
So Kristen tells people that she's a relative of this axe murderer, like while she's in school, like the strangest thing. And she also managed to convince her college roommates that her mum was an abusive drunk, and that wasn't true either. Apparently, while she was at college, so she enrolled into pre-med, and then when she met her boyfriend, she changed to like another college, and then she attempted suicide because her boyfriend broke up with her and she told him that she'd swallowed glass. And so then all these, like, she went to hospital and everything. It turned out it was a lie. And then the college was like, you need to have psychiatric treatment. And she's like, I quit. I'm going to go to community college. So then she went to community college and became a nurse. Yay. Lucky us. So later that year, she marries her new boyfriend, Glenn Gilbert, who then she would have 2 boys too. And in 1989, she landed a job at Northampton's Veterans Affairs Medical Centre. So basically just nursing male veterans. And so she distinguished herself early on. Like people would say that she was super skilled and really competent. And she was the kind of person that remembered everybody's birthdays and organised the Secret Santa, Kris Kringles, and like other staff events and stuff. So like she was well liked. And in 1990, they had their first son. And then after returning from mat leave, she switched to the 4 p.m. until midnight shift.
Oh, God.
In 1993, she has a second son, and then she comes back to work. And when she comes back to work, she starts developing a friendship with a new security guard. He was a Persian Gulf War veteran, James, I'm going to say it's Perrault or Perrault. I'm going to say Perrault. And in the autumn of 1994, they, like, from casual flirting and whatever, they basically start an affair. And co-workers would say, like, that they were so just, like, unprofessional and just lots of PDA. and it was also around this time, like, while she was sort of having this flirtation with James Perrault, that patients started having unexplained cardiac emergencies, and many of those resulted in death.
Oh.
So, and because it was a rule at the Veterans Hospital that when there was a medical emergency, the security guard or police officer, whatever they called them, had to attend to provide assistance. So then she would get all these opportunities to be quite heroic whenever there was arrest and then capture the attention of this handsome stranger. Anyway, so she's still with her husband at this point. And that November, so in 1993, after she has her baby, then in the November, she starts poisoning her husband with diuretics.
Oh my.
And then he experiences what he thinks is gastro, and he's admitted to a civilian hospital, right? And then he's found to be severely hypokalemic, and he's treated and discharged without a follow-up. And Kristen goes around telling all of her friends, like, I can't believe he was discharged without a follow-up, like potassium. And anyway, a few days later, so he's discharged from hospital. A few days later, Kristen comes home from work with 2 syringes, like an empty one and then one with a clear fluid. And she's like, I'm going to take a potassium level for you and I'll get it run at the hospital. So she tells him that she's got to flush his vein first before she takes a sample.
That old chestnut.
And this came out like in the prosecution. This is from like all the trial documents. So her husband agrees because he's like, oh, well, you're a nurse and you know what to do. Yep. So she injects him with exactly. She injects him with the clear liquid, and then he reported that his arms and chest became numb and he tried to pull away, but she pinned him against the wall and continued to inject. He loses consciousness but comes to and survives without any like intervention. And his wife says that, well, you fainted because of the needle. And that, like, so he never reported it because he thought that was true. Like he's like, he was like, obviously like the numbness and the resisting, and then she kept going and then he fainted. Like that was the story that he believed. But it was alleged by the prosecution that it was actually potassium that she injected him with. But she wasn't officially charged with it because it wasn't never reported at the time, and it only came out when they were getting, which later they get a divorce. So when they were getting a divorce, it all came out.
Isn't a divorce easier than killing them? Like I'm like, let's separate. I'm having an affair. Let's kill him rather than just let's divorce him. Like,
mate, she's fucked. Wait, it gets so much better. Like it's fucked. So her boyfriend, Perrault, at the hospital, he says, you need to leave your husband or I'm leaving you. So she leaves her husband and her 2 kids and gets her own apartment on the 1st of December 1994. And anyway, at the hospital, all these random cardiac arrests, a lot of these people would survive, but a lot of them would also die. These are all escalating, and it's they're thinking that she's been responsible for as many as 80 or more deaths and possibly over 300 medical emergencies.
Shit.
So in 1995, and this is all happening on her shift, like she's the only person responsible, but then she makes all these heroic efforts to try and save them. And every time she does it, her boyfriend rocks up and gets to see her be a hero. Then in 1995, 3 nurses, John Wall, Kathy Ricks, and Renee Walsh, report concerns that Gilbert could be involved in all of these emergencies, and that they've noticed there's been a marked increase in the use of epinephrine. So that prompts an investigation by the Office of Healthcare Inspections of the Department of Veteran Affairs. What a name. And they come up with nothing. They said there's no reason to believe that any staff member would have any involvement in these events. Right?
Epinephrine's just adrenaline, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's the synthetic form of adrenaline, yeah. And then a police investigation starts, and Kristen quits her job. Right? She says, "I'm injured.
I'm
hurt
out.
myself at work. I'm out." Then so early 1996.
Too much CPR.
No, exactly. Yeah, hurt my shoulder doing compressions. So criminal investigation starts, and this is where shit just gets batshit crazy, right? So she ends up being convicted for the death of 4 of her victims, all admitted with things other than cardiac problems. Like, all of them are generally fit and well. Her last victim, it looks like, was in February of 1996, Edward Squeerer, a 68-year-old man. And then she makes a strange confession to her boyfriend saying that she's killed someone, right? Then he quickly dumps her, gets a restraining order, and talks to the cops. Then he has to speak with the police about her while the investigation's going on at the hospital as well. And then Kristen phones in a fake bomb threat to the hospital when Perot's working. And she'd been harassing him. Like, after he broke up with her, she basically just starts harassing him. And she also attempted to obstruct the investigation, and she was charged with what is it? Obstruction of justice or whatever it is, and tampering with or harassing a witness. So she temporarily blocks his car in his driveway while she's pleading with him not to go to speak with the cops.
Like he has a choice.
No, I know. And then and to not comply with all the investigators that are going on at the hospital and whatever else. And he basically says, "You're off your fucking head." And then she follows him, and then while he's being interviewed at the cop station, she vandalizes his car. So fucking stupid.
Oh my God. Psycho ex-girlfriend.
Right. So then the bomb threat happens, and she gets arrested and charged over the bomb threat because they figured out that it was her. And she'd fully gone and bought a voice disguiser machine thing to make, she's fucked. And then so obviously that was to try and divert attention away from the murder investigation. So she was sentenced to 15 months in prison for that, and then was told to get psychiatric treatment. Then somehow, so then she's officially indicted for murder, and they exhume people's remains to test them for epinephrine. And I think in the end she was she was sent to prison, and then they let her out and said, "You better go." So they put her into a psychiatric hospital. And then when she came out of that, she went back to prison, and then they let her out and said, "Oh, how about you go and live with your parents?" I don't know how the fuck that can even happen, while she's awaiting trial for murder. Anyway, then the trial begins in 2000. So this is 5 years after she was pretty much the killing spree was 95 to 96 mostly. Well, that was what they managed to charge her with, the murders that she committed in that year. But there were murders being committed from 93 up until she resigned in 96. And that's a shitload. Imagine how many.
That's a lot.
And she's only come back from mat leave. Who knows what she was working at? But if you work out up to 400 emergencies and a third of them resulting in death, that is
that's crazy.
Huge. So anyway, indicted for murder, and she was moved to Hampden County House of Correction, and the trial begins, and then her ex-husband testifies against her.
Ooh,
and actually, and then he says that she confessed to some of the murders, which to me, I'm why wouldn't you report that at the time?
It was
fucked.
Oh God.
Anyway, so the case consisted of more than 70 witnesses and 200 pieces of evidence. She was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder, and 2 counts of attempted murder. Those were just the ones that they could prove.
Yeah.
And then I think she ends up being charged later with another person's death and I think 2 more attempted murder. So she gets sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole plus 20 years. And she was here plus 20 years. What the fuck? Gilbert was transferred from a federal prison for women in Framingham, Massachusetts, to a federal prison in Texas, where she's remained ever since. She dropped her federal appeal for a new trial because the US Supreme Court had ruled that it would have allowed prosecutors to pursue the death penalty. So she was like, nah, maybe I'll just stay in prison.
I reckon in Texas the death penalty would be... Is it still happening? It probably absolutely would have been.
Yeah, for sure. I think death row's full, mate. Get in line.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fucking...
I just need her as the nurse, the prison nurse. Death row would be empty.
Yeah. But just great, like I really do.
Wow.
I mean, we laugh because if you don't, you'll cry. But I really do feel like one of her victims was 35, like, and I think he had the flu.
Oh,
and you're like and these are also, I think, possibly her penalty was so severe because they were also like veterans, like they'd fought for her freedoms, and she's killing them. Like it's pretty fucked up.
Oh, God,
but also
sorry.
just
hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
oh man,
she's officially my favourite murderer. She just had it all going on.
She tried to kill her husband. She had an affair. She she did it all. She was crazy.
Yeah, she's gone for it.
A bomb
Pretty
threat,
funny, though.
man. That made me laugh.
I know,
that she got put in prison for the bomb threat. You'd be like, fuck. That was miscalculated.
And her poor boyfriend, he really thought he was onto her. He thought
she was like a full hero. Look at her
Exactly.
go. What a shit magnet, but she's good at it.
I killed someone. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, fuck.
Ah.
Bye. And then he would have looked around going, fuck. So all those people that I saw you try and save, you actually tried to kill. Like, that's fucked up.
And they could have been like doing it to impress him.
Well, that's what they
the motivation for it.
Well, can I tell you that's actually what the prosecutors alleged was that her motive was to gain the attention of this guy.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, well, didn't it? But only for a couple of years, and then she left her husband and ended up in jail.
Oh my God.
And her poor kids. Like,
oh, yeah, she just left her kids.
Yeah, I know. Fucked, hey.
Fucked.
But you think if you're growing up telling people you're related to an axe murderer and you're like proud of that,
ding
like,
ding ding,
red flag.
Oh, I love these episodes.
Me too. I just love the
crazy.
And I feel like we laugh. We laugh, but we're laughing at them, and we often are laughing at their clear stupidity. Like,
yeah.
I forgot to tell you the best bit of that whole story. Was one day she went to her manager and she was like, if my patient dies, can I go home early? And they're like, yeah. And then the guy died.
Oh my God.
And so then he dies and she gets to go home at like 2:00 or whatever time, 5:00. Fuck, so funny. Like, as if, could you imagine, Kelly? Could you imagine if Sarah come up to you and said, can I go home early if this guy croaks it in the chair? And you go, yeah, okay,
yeah,
like as
sure,
a joke.
No
and then he croaks it and she goes, I'm off to get my nails done.
Yeah. So funny.
Could you imagine, as a manager, would you sit there and be like, well, that's a coincidence?
In your PDP, you'd be like, now you've got to stop leaving early when the patients die.
If your patient dies, I want you to stay here till the end of your shift.
Yeah. Debrief with the rest of the team, thanks.
Honestly. But,
also,
why
are these people given chance after chance? I had 2 sick days when I was on placement, and I was told, if you don't make them up, you won't graduate.
No.
And that fucking Norris, he had like whole placements off, and they were still like, all right, good job, you graduate.
Well,
and
let's
he was
be
like
honest, you don't learn anything
arsehole.
as a student, really. Not much. Like, if you think about it, you probably learn like 5%, not
I
even,
know.
maybe 3% of what
But
you
why
will
do they?
learn on
Yeah.
the job.
I also need to stop joking about killing people with insulin, because that's how I always say if I was to kill someone, bit of insulin in the hairline.
I feel
No
like
one
you
will
and
know.
I are
Clearly,
always.
they're gonna know.
I feel like we're always giving out tips on how these
Not
people
to.
could have been better at being serial killers. Like, if you're going to kill someone, don't tell people about it. And then someone
Also,
at home sitting there going, I'll write that down.
Someone on night shift
Yeah.
listening to us. Spread it out too. Don't do it all in like bang, 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 bang. So they're like,
Well, let's
oh,
be
you
honest.
worked 8 shifts and you had 8 deaths. Yeah.
Let's be honest too. We're just giving out serial killer hacks here. If you think about life hacks for serial killers, if you
Oh shit, that made me laugh. I got tears.
What I'm
Life
actually
hacks for serial killers.
what I was trying to say before you lost your shit was that your bloke, Norris, like, he made a few mistakes. Like, he was complaining about being unlucky and then, you know, maybe, and falsifying, like, records and stuff. But also, like, think about how many people, they often have to kill hundreds of people before anybody notices.
I know.
Kill, like they have to kill a lot of people before anybody notices. Like, that to me is...
Well, they string them together and be like, yeah.
There needs to be some sort of online database where they, like, track when patients die, like, who were the people on their shift. And then when that happens, like, 3 times in a row and it's the same nurse, maybe a little alert should come up or something.
When I first started nursing back in 2001, I worked with this bloke called Nick, and he was like fabulous. Like, I loved him to death. He had like dreadies and he was just amazing. He was such a nice guy. Anyway, I swear to God, we worked every shift together for a fortnight and we had about 4 patients die on our shifts. Like,
oh God.
And that was back in the day when you used to have to like wash the body and prep the body and write their name and put a toe tag on and wrap them in plastic and put them under the shroud. Like, it was a big deal.
Yeah. What's a shroud?
Like a plastic wrap.
Oh,
like
okay.
Like we used. Yeah, it was.
See,
it was,
my nursing is of the age where you just leave them.
Yeah,
you just make them look pretty. You might tidy their hair up and you just leave them.
And in the country, when you don't have a morgue and you just call the funeral directors direct, in the city, they go down after the family's left. They go down to the morgue, so you have to wrap them up and prep them for the morgue.
Yeah,
and I reckon Nick and I had done it 4 times in a fortnight, and I was like, I cannot work with you again. Like, there's something's got to stop
asking
here.
questions.
Yeah. In hindsight, I'm like, we're a cute ward too. Like, you know, I wonder. I mean, I didn't do anything, obviously, and I'm assuming Nick didn't either. But it was like, wonder where he is these days.
Sitting behind a jail cell.
Nah, he was too like. He was very chilled. Yeah, it was great. That was good. I miss doing these. It's been a little while since our last one, so
I was thinking that you know, we've had a lot of guests on lately. I'm like, we really just need to have an episode, just me and you, and get back to the roots.
Yep. Back to the crazy people.
Yeah, I do love these episodes. I'm adamant that when we get famous and picked up by some amazing distribution deal that will start a spin-off. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Nursing true crime.
Exactly, Nurses Who Kill. Make sure you're following us on Instagram for all the latest things we are doing. It's at 2 Humorous Nurses Podcast. And please, please, please like, share, follow, get alerts on your Spotify, Apple, whatever it is, because that's how people can find us. We need to beat those algorithms.
Yeah. Never really cared much about the algorithms, but apparently it's a thing. So
it is a thing.
Yeah.
And Spotify still eludes us. So give us a rating, a good one. We don't want a shit rating. We want a good one.
Yeah. 5 stars or less.
Yeah. Tag us in your posts, your stories, whatever it is. Tag your mates. Tell a friend if you love the podcast, because We love it.
Yeah, we do.
So you should.
You can send us an email to our new email, hello@twohumorousnurses.com. It's humorous like the bone, HUMERUS. Send us your stories, your feedbacks, who you might like to hear from. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.